Welcome to Mystery Vault. So the film begins showing a man whose entire face is covered in plaster, with 2 pipes inserted in his nose. On the other side, a man whose face is not shown mixes chemicals and pours them into the man's nose through a funnel as he writhes in agony. Zooming out, we see the man forcibly tied to a strange object. When the killer realizes the man has died in agony, he picks up a large hammer and begins hitting the plaster on his face, crushing the plaster along with the man's face. The scene then cuts to a supermodel named Jennifer. She had a huge fan following, and we see her featured in most advertisements and posters. Jennifer is enjoying the most important day of her life and success, and she has no idea that the days ahead won't be as good and relaxed as they seem. We see that someone is watching her. Whether she's at home, at a party, or on her show, someone is watching her. Someone even listens to all her interviews, but we haven't seen the man's face yet. One evening, when Jennifer enters a club to party, a man spikes her drink. As soon as she drinks, she begins to panic and runs out of the party, and the man seizes the opportunity to knock her unconscious. When she wakes up, she finds herself on a bed. The view from the window in front is beautiful, but it's actually artificial. Turning around, she realizes that she's actually locked inside a cell. This shocks her. She screams, "They're trying to knock on the doors here," but no one can hear her. She sits there, distraught, for a long moment before her attention shifts to the entire room. It was filled with posters of her. There was a TV and all her personal belongings. She was even more shocked to see that all the products from the same brand she used were kept there. This angered her even more, and she began throwing everything. Just then, a drawer opened, and she quickly went inside to look inside. There was the juice she drank every morning. She picked it up, threw it at the wall, screaming loudly because she had to get out of there. Jennifer was becoming increasingly uncontrollable, so the man released a sleeping gas into the room, causing Jennifer to faint again. When Jennifer regained consciousness, she found herself tied to the same stand we saw a man tied to at the beginning of the movie. Jennifer's hands, feet, and even her head were tied up there. At this point, the killer began playing a series of videos of all his victims he had tortured to death. Some by crushing their faces, some by forcing them to drink acid, and some by pulling out their teeth. The last video was particularly horrific. He had killed the most beautiful woman in the most horrific way, by running an acidic shower. Watching this, Jennifer was terrified. Suddenly, she heard the sound of a tap being turned. She looked up and saw the same shower used to kill the girl. She realized the killer was going to kill her too with the insides of this shower. She writhed in agony, screaming, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" But the killer turned on the shower, and Jennifer fainted in fear. When she regained consciousness, she was back in her locker room. Her mouth was completely bound with bandages, and blood was all over it. She went to the mirror and was terrified. She wanted to remove the bandages and look at her face in the mirror. Surprisingly, there was only a small mark on her face, a sign of an acid burn. But later, she learned that this was also a fake mark, a prank by the killer. Just then, while she was examining her face, an overall automatically appears from behind, frightening her to the point where we learn that the psychopath killer was actually trying to mentally torture Jennifer. She then leaves the bathroom, and as she emerges, another drawer opens. Inside that drawer was Jennifer's new magazine and a key to a new locker. She takes the key to the locker along with the magazine, and when she opens the locker, there's a beautiful dress. Jennifer understands that the killer wants her to wear the dress, but she refuses. She behaves very rudely and even screams loudly. To punish Jennifer for these actions, the killer plays a strange sound that Jennifer has been thinking about, and Jennifer can't bear it. The killer doesn't stop there and turns the lights in the room so bright that they sting Jennifer's eyes. Tired of these indiscretions, she gets up and goes to the cabin and takes off her dress. The killer also turns off the sound and returns the lights to normal. Seeing this, Jennifer seizes the opportunity and goes in front of the camera the killer has installed and tears the dress. The killer again tries the same herb to torture her. He turns the sound on again and turns the lights up. To ask for the light, she goes under the bed where she finds a filer and considers killing herself with it. Before Jennifer can do so, she takes her own life. At that very moment, the killer turned off the sound and lights. This clearly indicated that he didn't intend to kill Jennifer this way, and thus, Jennifer had found a weapon to defend herself. Using the filer, she tried to open an air vent upstairs and escape. But as she went inside the vent, she found a girl's broken nail. She realized that one of the girls he had brought there had tried to escape before but had been caught. But she remained undeterred and climbed through the vent. Before she could proceed further, the vent broke and the killer caught her again. The killer had tied her to the same chair where he used to torture everyone. This time, when Jennifer regained consciousness, she began crying and begged the killer for her life. She even said, "I will give you whatever money you want. I'll give you whatever you need." But if the killer wanted something like that, he would have asked for it in advance. Ignoring her, the killer opens his fridge, and his fridge is terrifying. It's filled with human body parts. He takes out a nose, an ear, and an eye from these body parts, grinds them with a little water, and creates a strange liquid. He forcibly puts a funnel into Jennifer's mouth, forcing her to drink it. Jennifer cries and screams, but she can't swallow the concoction made from these human body parts. Jennifer faints again from the sting, and now the strange concoction is stuck to the side of her mouth. The killer cleans it off with a cotton swab and licks it off himself. This is how we learn that he's also a cannibal, meaning he eats humans. After this, he picks Jennifer up, leaves her in her previous room, and then walks out. We're shown that there was a huge poster of Jennifer in front of her bed. In reality, it wasn't a poster, but a two-way mirror. The killer was monitoring her every second. Jennifer was asleep, so he could pass the time. He took out Jennifer's interviews and began watching them intently. Hours later, when Jennifer regained consciousness, she saw a faint light coming from the other side of her room's wall. Upon looking, she realized there was something written there. She was being asked, "Who are you?" Jennifer quickly went to the mirror and saw a boy trapped in a glass cell there as well. She realized this was the killer's work. The two began talking, and Jennifer realized there was a man named Gary on the other side of the cage. The killer was also keeping an eye on them. He knew they were talking, so he turned off the light, preventing them from seeing each other. He also turned off the lights because he knew Jennifer was afraid of the dark, a fact Jennifer had mentioned in an interview. Gary, meanwhile, had a matchstick and by striking it, offered Jennifer some light, preventing her from panicking and allowing them to talk. They were both glad they weren't alone in this hell. The man removed the silver coating from the other side of the mirror so he could fully see Jennifer. With Gary now present, Jennifer's fear was reduced to half. Furthermore, we were shown that the killer was a complete psycho. He was not only conducting strange experiments on humans, but also torturing innocent animals. Similarly, he was also torturing a rat. When he saw that his torture wasn't having much effect on Jennifer, thanks to Gary, he drugged Gary into unconsciousness and began to terrorize Jennifer even more. Suddenly, another drawer opened, revealing a glass containing sand and a card inside the sand. The card depicted a woman buried in the sand. Before Jennifer could react, the killer came from behind, covered her mouth with a cloth, and took her away, locking her in a glass container. Sand began to fall on her continuously, and she began to scream loudly. We then saw the killer send Gary a card telling him that he could risk his own life to save Jennifer. Gary, too, disregarding her own life, set off to rescue Jennifer. He climbs up to Jennifer's cabin through a vent and rescues her. Emerging through the vent, they enter another room, a lab-like structure containing another dead body, its skin completely burned, as if the killer had experimented with acid. The sight terrifies them both. They had barely escaped with their lives. They had just mustered up some courage. They thought they could escape with more courage, and indeed, their thinking worked. They escaped and reached a garage where they spotted a car. They both got inside the car, and while she was saying quickly drove off, he broke the shutter of the car in front of them and pulled out. They thought they had escaped, but it was all just a delusion, a trap set by the killer. There was sleeping gas inside the car as well, and the killer easily releases it, rendering them both unconscious. When Jennifer regains consciousness, she finds herself on the same experiment table. This time, a gun was placed on her temple, another gun was right next to her hand, just enough to pull the trigger, and her beloved dog was right in front of the trigger. The killer told her, "You have only 30 seconds. Think about it. Either you kill your dog or I'll kill you." But she didn't want to kill him. To save her own life, she fires the gun at Susie, and Susie is blown to pieces. This scene was quite strange. No living thing is hit like this. Jennifer also realizes that this wasn't her real dog. The killer had played a game with her mind once again. She tries to open the container in which she sees her dog, but here she faints again. This time, when she regains consciousness, she finds her clothes have been changed and she's in another cell, the same one where she was previously held. She notices that Gary is also conscious in the other cell, and the two begin talking to each other again. The killer opens a door between their cells for a second, and as they try to approach the door, he immediately closes it. The killer is torturing them beyond their wildest dreams. This time, a drawer opens in Jennifer's room, and inside it is another dress. She understands that the killer is capable of going to any lengths. Therefore, she believes it necessary to obey the killer and puts on the dress. As soon as she puts on the dress, the killer does something very strange. He opens the door between her and Gary's cell, and Jennifer immediately runs to Gary. True to his plan, the killer plays a video. It's a horrifying one. It shows a girl tied to a table in a strange way, her mouth sewn shut, and several openings on her body. Gary is deeply disturbed by this, and he picks up items, breaking the monitors and cameras. This enrages the killer, who drags Gary away. The next moment, Jennifer is shown a video of Gary on another monitor where the killer is harassing and torturing Gary. Jennifer cries and screams, even fainting from the shock. This time, when she regains consciousness, they're back in the same cage. They're sitting on experimental chairs. Or rather, both of them were tied together on experimental chairs. At this time, a video was playing on the monitor in front of them, showing a mother abusing her own son, and the child was deeply disturbed by his mother. The woman also recorded all this, and it was extremely disturbing. We see that one day, in a fit of rage, the child stabs his mother multiple times, killing her, and then takes photos of them. He has also recorded all this, and we learn, in a twist, that the child was none other than the killer. He was now taking revenge for his mother's actions and the atrocities he suffered by torturing these people. The killer was also watching these videos with them. He begins to remember all his own suffering, and his anger increases again. He now approaches Jennifer to torture her, angrily trying to pull out her teeth. Jennifer screams loudly, and Gary tells her, "If you're a man, come here and pull out my tooth." The killer doesn't think twice, brutally pulling out one of Gary's teeth, causing Gary to scream loudly. Gary faints from the impact, and he picks them both up and puts them in Gary's cell. Now, because Gary saved Jennifer, Jennifer's respect for Gary grows even greater. She sits with him and cares for him until he regains consciousness. When Gary does, they grow closer in this vulnerable moment. After their closeness, Jennifer falls asleep again. We are shown Gary getting up, standing aside, taking out a card, scanning it, opening the door, and going upstairs. In a major twist, we discover that Gary, who we had assumed was a victim throughout the movie, was actually the real killer. Gary was the same kid we'd seen being tortured in videos, and he was doing all this with his brother. They had tortured and killed many girls and boys in this manner, and now they had hatched a similar plan for Jennifer. But for some reason, Gary had become attracted to Jennifer. He had decided not to kill her. This was making his brother desperate. Their plan would have been ruined. If Jennifer had ever escaped, they would have been in deep trouble. Her brother wanted them to torture and kill Jennifer today itself. Hearing this, Gary became enraged and stabbed his brother with a knife lying in the kitchen, then placed his body in the bathtub. Gary then began looking through the files of all his victims, creating a new file named Jennifer. While he was still looking through them, there was a knock on his door. He quickly hides all the files and goes outside just as police officers arrive. They investigate Jennifer's case and ask Gary about his older brother, as they too suspect Gary. Gary flatly denies this, saying his brother isn't home and hasn't been home in a while. After gathering some important information from Gary, the police are about to leave. But suddenly they remember that they have an important match coming up today, so they turn on the TV. They start watching the score, and Gary goes into the kitchen to get some water. Suddenly, an ad comes on. They change the channel and find CCTV footage of Jennifer. Shocked, they realize that Gary is the real culprit holding Jennifer captive. Before they can apprehend Gary, Gary arrives with his large gun and shoots them dead. Meanwhile, he notices that Jennifer had woken up by the gunfire. He runs to her and says, "Jennifer, wake up. We can get away. I've killed both killers. He takes Jennifer upstairs to his apartment. Jennifer sees the dead policemen and assumes they are the killers. She quickly picks up a phone and tries to call the police, but Gary explains, "Jennifer, no. We won't do that. We won't call the police. We've recorded videos of everything we did here. And if those videos get out, you'll be disgraced. Let me delete all those videos first." With that, he goes downstairs to do it. While Jennifer continues to try to call the police upstairs, she's using the dead phone to call them from outside. Just then, we see an officer who wasn't dead completely get up and stand behind Jennifer. He probably wanted to tell Jennifer the whole truth, but scared out of his mind, Jennifer picks up something heavy and hits him on the head, killing him. Here, she stumbles upon a cabin where Gary had kept files on all the victims. The cabin now opens completely, and when Jennifer looks inside, she realizes the truth. She was brought there after a thorough plan, and the mastermind was none other than Gary himself. Inside the files on the victims, she also sees a picture of Gary with Gary's brother, and she realizes that the two of them are working together. Meanwhile, we are shown that Gary's brother, whom Gary stabbed, wasn't dead. He was injured. He gets up from the path and comes to Jennifer. He was about to grab Jennifer and kill her again. But to save herself, Jennifer stabbed him with the knife still stuck in his body, killing him. After killing him, she searched for every possible way to escape, but all were blocked. Meanwhile, a police officer's phone is found there, and she's about to take it out and call another police officer when Gary arrives. She knows Gary doesn't know Jennifer has discovered the truth, so she tries to get close to Gary, and Gary is about to be dissuaded when she gets close to him. Then Jennifer sprays pesticide on his face and runs down to where she was held captive. She hoped she would find something to save her. And there she finds a gun. Gary arrived just in time and tried to shoot Gary, pointing the gun at him, but Gary hadn't reloaded the gun. Gary couldn't die, and Gary snatched it from his hand. Gary had now loaded the gun and was about to shoot Jennifer, but Jennifer, again showing courage, snatched the gun from his hand and killed him, ultimately saving her life and avenging everyone else's loss. After which, she escaped. If you love this mystery, hit that like button, subscribe to Mystery Vault, and turn on notifications for more movie mysteries. See you in the next one.